There are few words that conjure up images as vivid and exciting as the term adventure. It calls to mind vast expanses of land, maybe dotted with ancient ruins full of mysteries, treasure, and morsels of wisdom left behind by explorers and tomb raiders alike. Or places where no man has ever tread, places undiscovered. It's a word full of danger and intrigue, from dangers of days gone by, lost to history, and from those unscrupulous villains desperate to claim the treasure before you. It's no surprise that this is a predominant genre in video games. And today, we'll talk about a series that struck new ground with its cinematic focus, rivaling in each entry the great adventure serials of old, and cinema classics like Indiana Jones in style, scope, and tone. So sit back and let me tell you everything you need to know about Uncharted. After completing the third entry in the Jak and Daxter series, the leadership of Naughty Dog decided to move away from their typical cartoon-like mascot games, such as the aforementioned Jak and of course Crash Bandicoot, and instead work on something more serious, full of action and excitement and having a human character. This was the inception of Project Big, the original pitch to Sony for their new game idea. In it, the character was modeled after Johnny Knoxville of Jackass fame in both appearance and personality. Though of course, in time that would change towards the character design and profile we know today. The team that worked on Uncharted started out quite small and included Soul Reaver director Amy Hennig among them, having moved to Naughty Dog after departing from Crystal Dynamics. In an interview, Hennig said there were about 6 people in the team, though in time that number grew. The development and especially the writing of Uncharted was a true collaborative experience across the board, something unique to the Naughty Dog process, with every member of the team from director to designer and programmer having the space to offer ideas. Amy Hennig, as the director, was the lead writer, but others, such as Neil Druckmann, who was a designer at the time, and Josh Scher, lead cinematic designer, pitched in to help write the tale. The story was the starting point, and from there, game elements were designed and even built, and the process of doing so would in turn often alter the story or add new details, which would in turn give rise to new ideas for gameplay moments. Playtesting became part of the creative process. If a section proved to not be very fun to play and was discarded, then the story had to be revised to account for that change. Even the character's name, Nathan Drake, was decided on in this collaborative manner. Richard LeMarchand, lead designer, mentioned a lengthy internal email chain just about discussing the name. But it wasn't just the storytelling and the programming and design that worked together in the crafting of Uncharted, but also the motion cap performances, the shooting being done in tandem with the design and development, and animators using the footage to do all the facial animations by hand, something the studio continued to do well into the last entry of the series. The first title, Uncharted Drake's Fortune, released in 2007 to favorable reviews and tremendous sales. With its success came sequels, Uncharted 2 in 2009, 3 in 2011, 4 in 2016, and Lost Legacy in 2017. Uncharted 2, Among Thieves, was bigger, bolder, and introduced the now famous set pieces that are so iconic to the series. The first Uncharted had big action moments, but not truly at the scale of the set pieces from Uncharted 2 and especially Uncharted 3. Speaking of, Uncharted 3, Drake's Deception's design began with a technological challenge to push the team to animate organic elements like fire, sand, and water cinematically, which was considered difficult to pull off in a credible manner at the time. Thus, the first elements decided on were 2 of the set pieces, one in the desert and the other aboard a cruise ship. From there, Amy and the team had the task of weaving a story that gave a narrative reasoning to those moments. Uncharted 4 Thieves' End is where things get a bit messy. After 2 years of work in the game and about 8 months of recording, creative director Amy Hennig and game director Justin Richmond left Naughty Dog and were replaced by Neil Druckmann and Bruce Straley. The exact details have never been made public, and there are likely many non-disclosure agreements in place for that. For their part, Druckmann and Straley scrapped everything that had been recorded thus far and rewrote the entire script, though keeping the game's premise and story beats more or less in place, in essence keeping the DNA of the original intent, but altering characters, motivations, and adding new elements that differed from that original vision. Following Uncharted 4 was Uncharted: The Lost Legacy, something of a spin-off title, set after the events of Uncharted 4 and following two characters who act as supporting cast in the previous games. The Lost Legacy would be the last title in the series, as Naughty Dog has seemingly moved away from it and shelved it indefinitely despite its popularity. There is technically a sixth title, released for the PlayStation Vita, Uncharted: Golden Abyss, a prequel to the first game, but given that it's never been ported and is almost impossible to acquire, I won't be including it in this overview of the series. Uncharted follows the adventures of Nathan Drake, voiced by Nolan North, whose career took off with the success of the series to the point that for a time, there was a 75% chance that any character in any game was voiced by him, even those without any actual spoken lines. Nathan is a treasure hunter, thief, miscreant with a heart of gold, and he goes on one globe-trotting adventure after another, pursuing ancient legendary treasures and places, accompanied by a slew of characters, but chief among them, reporter Elena Fisher, voiced by Emily Rose, and super charismatic father figure, chain cigar smoker, and fellow fortune seeker Victor Sullivan, aka Sully, voiced by Richard McGonagle. Nathan's surname is the same as that of Sir Francis Drake, the legendary explorer whose journeys and own adventures are subject of two of the games. As to how he could be an heir to the childless Sir Francis Drake, Nathan simply states that just because Sir Francis did not have an official heir doesn't mean that he didn't drop a bastard here and there in his many travels. As for what the truth may be, well, you'll just have to play the games and find out. Uncharted: Drake's Fortune is the first title in the series, and sees Nathan, Elena, and Sully on the hunt for El Dorado, while avoiding criminals and pirates out on their tail. Their leader voiced by none other than Kane himself, Simon Templeman. The game takes our hero from the open seas off the coast of Panama to the Amazon jungle and then a mysterious island in the South Pacific Ocean, within the same South American region. Uncharted 2, Among Thieves, takes our hero across the world on the hunt for an ancient city of legend and the treasure held within, the Chintamani Stone, while dealing with dubious allies and competing for the prize with a maniacal warlord, Zoran Lazarevich, and what I like to call his clone armies, for the sheer number of them. Nathan's adventures begin in Istanbul, where the journey leads him to the island of Borneo in Southeast Asia, Nepal, and eventually the Himalayas. Uncharted 3: Drake's Deception puts our ragtag band of treasure hunters after a place both Sir Francis Drake and the famous Lawrence of Arabia were both involved with. A legendary city, a veritable jewel of the desert, holding an ancient power that a British secret society is very keen on getting their hands on. This title explores part of Nathan's origin story and his most profound obsession, and takes him from jolly good England to France, Syria, Yemen, and a desert simply known as the Empty Quarter. In Uncharted 4: Thieves' End, Nathan is retired, living a normal life when his long-lost brother, deceased as far as he knew, and voiced by Troy Baker, suddenly shows up on his doorstep and takes him on a high seas adventure, pursuing the legendary treasure of the great pirate Henry Avery, revisiting Panama, doing a little stint in New Orleans, before embarking on a journey to Italy, Scotland, and Madagascar, all while competing with another person from Nathan's past and his partner, the head of a private military contractor, whose soldiers could very well be considered professional cannon fodder. Unlike the previous titles in the series, Uncharted: The Lost Legacy changes some crucial aspects. The first is, of course, the protagonists, shifting from Nathan, Sully, and Elena to Chloe Fraser, the femme fatale of Uncharted 2, and Nadine Ross, the femme fatale of Uncharted 4. The second is the change of world-trotting, to focusing on a single region, that being southwestern India, in the lands once part of the Hoysala Empire, and they're pursuing the legendary Horn of Ganesh, trying to keep one step ahead of another warlord. This one much more charismatic and educated than Lazarevich, but just as dangerous. The Uncharted series broke new ground. They changed the game, so to speak, with their approach to storytelling. The collaborative process I described before meant you didn't just get story and cutscenes, but every aspect of the game serves to propel the narrative, from the combat sequence to the set pieces to even small moments where you think you're just fighting some enemies, but in truth, you're triggering events that will impact the next bit of narrative and gameplay, such as shooting a barrel on the jeep those enemies are on and have it become your literal bridge to continue on the journey. Not only that, but the game's camera has cinematography in mind, from close-ups to wide shots to even the Naughty Dog crash cam, where you run towards the camera. The result is that you don't feel like you're just playing a game, but are instead experiencing an interactive movie. Uncharted draws from the font of inspiration that is the classic pulp adventure genre, with larger-than-life characters, villains, and quests, full of mystery and intrigue. It's never simple. It's not just a little bit of treasure. There's more to the story. But the bombastic nature of the genre doesn't detract from the characterization. These are very real characters, flawed, but capable of growth and learning. Nathan Drake is someone that in the first game can make a bad first impression, but the journey changes him, every game aiding in his maturity, as he learns to value things beyond the material riches. He's also by no means the image of the action hero, invulnerable or unstoppable or infallible. No, Nathan and his allies struggle to overcome the challenges ahead of them, often looking exhausted by the latest bit of gameplay or combat or whatever. It humanizes them, and Nathan is pretty constantly being put in his place. Also true to the genre, the different characters you meet and interact with in the different entries of the Uncharted series all represent classic tropes and archetypes without ever falling to cliché. The wise mentor, the plucky underdog, the conniving antagonist, the big bad, and their Darth Vader lieutenant. It helps the audience more quickly connect with the cast and understand what they're about and what their place is in the story being told. The writing of the characters is also solid, with their actions and choices logical and consistent to their points of view and priorities. The developers and designers mastered how to perfectly break up the game's elements so that none feel excluded. There are equal parts exploration, problem-solving, puzzling, platforming, climbing, parkour, and of course, combat. Speaking of combat, it's deeply satisfying. Lots of different enemies with various weapons and tactics. Enemies move around covers, they try to flank you, throw grenades at your last known position, and in general ensure that every scenario is challenging while never feeling unfair. You always have enough weapons and ammo and resources available, either because it's in the environment or the enemies are gracious enough to drop theirs when breathing is no longer one of their priorities. Of course, in a series that showcased so much motion capture, the voice acting is superb. The actors delivering some terrific performances, which combined with the masterful facial animations, make the characters feel that much more real, tangible. It's not just a mannequin passing a head in front of their face, but an expression of weariness, of exhaustion. You can see the face scrunched up. All the actors' quirks and mannerisms that come through in the performances are brought vividly to life by the animators. As it bears repeating, the Naughty Dog team hand-animated all the facial expressions, and they always look natural, they look human. And speaking of something being very vivid, the environments are delightful to look at. A key priority for the Naughty Dog team behind Uncharted was to set the games apart from the usual standard fare monochromatic dark environments we see all too often in games, which make everything look grim and depressing. They wanted the environments to be bright and colorful. It's a rarity to find yourself in a location that doesn't have some form of greenery or other vibrant hues. As someone who loves discovering new bits of world history, the way the Uncharted series weaves fact and fiction is truly astonishing, taking real history and known legends and simply ask, what if? And then taking us down the rabbit hole of all that could happen so that you find a German U-boat in the middle of the Amazon jungle. And yes, the set pieces are really that good. They're big and over the top in just the right way. And while there are a couple that maybe go a bit too far, it's all in service of a really good time, so I can forgive them for being overambitious with them. Lastly, and your mileage may vary on this one, the collectible treasures add some nice replayability, and collecting them often unlock extra goodies like skins and weapons. Personally, I like them because they help my immersion by having the treasure hunter actually find treasures. And as I mentioned, I love history, so I enjoy going beyond the games to find out the real-world counterparts to the treasures and how they relate to the in-game location you find them in. Say some silver Inca mosaic earrings found in the Amazon jungle. If you look into it, you'll find that location is pretty accurate historically for such an item to be found. And that is just great attention to detail for me. The Uncharted games are all about the journey, the adventure, the danger, and the mystery, and how exhilarating such events could be, while also delivering good characters and compelling narratives. And much like the explorer from whom the main character draws his name, the Uncharted series are all about that sick Parvis Magna, greatness from small beginnings. It started out simply with Project Big and a team of 6 people, but it became as legendary as the treasures you seek in each title, and you don't get bigger than that.